Hello, everyone.
Hello, good evening to
Sorry
all.
sorry for inconvenience. I'm really sorry for that.
No, it's fine. Because technology, sometimes it is, boon, and sometimes it becomes little difficult.
I'm just waiting for the panelist.
Good evening, Dr. Ghazal. Good evening. Good evening to all students, all my dear students as well, all faculty members, and all. I believe Dr. Ghazal, Mr. Abir Lalde, he has also joined, I think.
Yes, he is here.
He joined earlier. Rituraj, please kindly check. Dr. Ajit is not there.
Yeah, he's there.
But he is not able to hear anything, and Kamaljit sir is not able to hear.
Kamaljit sir is there.
Good evening, Mr. Abir Lal. Good evening to you and welcome here.
Ma'am, Kamaljit sir has to on their speakers. That's why then he can listen to us.
Okay, he is not able to listen anything.
Yeah, he is not able.
Okay.
Because he has paused his audio clip.
Okay.
So let's start our session with our panel.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks to Ghazal ma'am.
Welcome, sir. Indeed, Nizam has also come.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Nice.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good evening. I'm just waiting for Kamaljit now.
After a long battle, lot of struggle,
now
we
I
are
think
finally
everything is
able
fine.
to connect.
Kamaljit sir is in, but he is not able to.
There are some technical issues.
Kamaljit sir is here. He has joined, but I think he has some to join again.
Yeah,
Victor sir joined.
Audio problem. There are some audio problem also. Your voice was not coming properly earlier, so I have again joined. Now everything is clear from my side.
I can also hear you all.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, good evening.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, Mr. Abir Lalde.
Good evening.
Welcome here.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. Good evening to all of you. I hope you all are keeping safe and well.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Shall we start, sir?
Yeah, sure.
So, Rituraj, why don't you quickly give a brief about the panelists to the others, and then
yeah, sure. Hello everyone. Myself Rituraj, founder and publisher of Burness Law Journal, and today we have special guest, Mr. Abir Laldev sir. He is partner at Luthra and Luthra, and today we are organizing in the collaboration with School of Law, Galgotia Universities. And in this, we have four panelists with us, Mr. Kamaljit sir, Victor sir. So before starting this session, please introduce yourself, a short introduction, starting from Abir Laldev sir.
Hi, I'm based in Mumbai, and as I am working in Luthra and Luthra, now it is LNL partner. My primary focus area is banking and finance, as well as restructuring and insolvency. And prior to joining Luthra, I was associated with Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas, and I passed my law from Symbiosis Law College.
Yes, Nizam sir.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Nizam Khan. I am assistant professor in the School of Law, Galgotia University. And currently, I am teaching taxation law. And my area of interest is IPR and taxation law. Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Victor Naik, and I'm also an assistant professor at Galgotia University School of Law. My area of interest happens to be corporate and business laws. I have been an avid reader of corporate and related issues, which includes insolvency, mergers and acquisition, which is also presently my area of research in my doctoral thesis. And presently, I am dealing in corporate laws, and insolvency matters.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
you, sir.
I am Dr. Ajit Kaushal, Associate Professor in the School of Law, Galgotia University. And I handle business and corporate law, and I also handle the financial market regulations. And I have done my PhD in conflicts in global currency regulations.
Great. Thank you, sir. Where is Kamaljeet, sir? If you are audible,
Kamaljit,
then please
he's
introduce yourself.
having little glitch with his mic. He's just setting his mic. The moment he will be there with us.
Yeah. So in the meantime, we can proceed.
Please tell him to join again. And okay,
Sure.
okay. So before, so let's start our discussion. Starting from
Yes.
Abir Laldev, sir. Sir, what are the impacts of COVID-19 on corporate sector? What's your point of view? Hello, Abir sir, can you hear
Abir
me?
sir, it's muted.
Mute. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
So,
it's-
yeah.
Yes, yes.
So
Yes, sir.
I
Yes.
overall deal with banking and finance, and mostly, my dealings are with corporates as well as banks and financial institutions. So obviously this lockdown is like kind of very, something. India being a huge democratic country and kind of population, this sort of lockdown has obviously impacted uh, overall the country. And in such, during this period, there has been a lot of business loss, obviously. There has been, I've been seeing a lot of commercial contracts are being terminated also, and a lot of sectors have been impacted. Obviously, there are few sectors which are in essential service provider. They are not being affected so much, but obviously when they are producing, channelizing those to the public was also a difficult thing during the initial period of lockdown. Uh, Banks and financial services are opening, but we are seeing a lot of issues in terms of executing the contract, getting stamp paper. There are a lot of issues being faced by the banks and financial institutions. So there is overall impact on the country as well as corporates, those especially who are in non-essential service provider, including us, because though we deal with banks and financial institution as a law firm, but we are not able to attend our offices. However, we have been providing our services sitting at home. Now, most of us we're not having the idea that how we are going to work from home. This is one of the segment, obviously, I'm going to
Yes.
discuss with the professors as well as with the students. And I think we need to be ready with the new normal going forward. And this COVID is not going to go away for sure. It is going to be there, but lockdown is not going to be extended further because India being a developing country, it is not possible to have continue this lockdown for long. And business has to be started. It's already going to start tomorrow. And except for a few, there are cities and all, I think MHA is going to come up with this specific order in terms of how the businesses is going to resume. But we have to see how it is going to start. But overall, there has been a big impact. And I think it is going to take time to get out of this situation. And it is not going to happen very soon.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your words. So, sir, to our panelist, Mr. Nizam Khan, sir, what's your view on the impact of COVID-19 in education sector?
Yes. So with respect to this COVID-19, every field is affected by this COVID-19, not with respect to this education sector. So there are a lot of things earlier when this lockdown was being started. During that time, this education sector was thinking that this is for a shorter period. So they were just like suspended the regular face-to-face classes. And they were thinking that this will be for a short time, so we can suspend the classes. But like our university, Galgotia University, who has started the online classes from the very first day, of this lockdown period. So now after this COVID-19, so now this has been realized that online teaching can be the part with respect to this education sector. Now everywhere, like school, starting from school to university or colleges, this online teaching is taking a very crucial and important role. So after this COVID-19, this has been now realized that this online teaching can be done. There are a lot of open resources which are also available, which can be provided to all the students across the globe for accessing the e-library and other resources for the purpose of research and accessing the knowledge about any of the subjects. So this is gonna help to all the students, including research and in all areas. So this lockdown has what we can say that has told us that this particular education sector is not being affected very much, although this face-to-face teaching is having a different taste, but this online teaching has what we can say has achieved somehow goal with respect to this particular teaching, and the teaching is in continuous period and it has not been stopped by just making this lockdown. So it is ongoing process, and this thing is going on. The teaching and the education sector are working with respect to this lockdown things. After this COVID-19, there are not much difficulties or hindrance by this particular COVID-19. So there are some problem with respect to this examination and other things that is also being trying to be resolved by online exam and other things. So this education sector is not like that is not been also affected. It is being affected, but not as much with respect to other business and market entities which have suffered a lot of loss by this particular COVID-19 and this lockdown.
Thank you, sir, thank you for your words. But the problem is that, sir, online is not that effective. Like students are not interested in online classes. They are facing so many problems.
Your voice is breaking.
Students, those who are in rural area, they are not having. Hello, sir.
I think, sorry, Rituraj, I'm interrupting, but I think it's a very interesting thing. See, our infrastructure is not that much, capable of doing online courses so much. Byju's and all, there are apps and all, but also see couple of things. One is universities, schools, they are not equipped with the infrastructure. This COVID has come suddenly, and we are not ready for this online this thing. Our teachers are not ready and equipped for the online classes, first of all, because they are used to see 40 students in one room. Now they are seeing 40 screens on there, like the way we are doing. And I don't know how it is going to happen. It's going to be a tough thing for a teacher, though. We ourselves are facing problem communicating with the clients and having calls over the Zoom. And also one more thing is data protection, data privacy. That is also important, because now kids are going to have the access of online things, and we don't know how to restrict them to go into a different zone, and how much time we are going to monitor them. We have to see the overall aspect as well. I would request others also to pitch in and say if they have anything.
Yeah.
Okay, sir, so if I may just respond.
Raise the,
yeah, Rituraj, you were saying something, please.
Yeah, please.
No, sir,
please go ahead.
Okay, as sir has pointed out about the infrastructure, this is something that I think everybody is facing currently, the crunch. Like today itself, when we started the session, this was very much evident in our present session also. Now, infrastructure is something that is a kind of a challenge, and it will always be a challenge. And especially when we talk about India, we know the challenges are not going to go away in just one day. The problem is how to work within these challenges. And that is where I think we have been remarkable in trying to not only see the challenges, but also find out ways in which we can overcome them. Like, for example, when this COVID-19 lockdown was there, people thought that there will be complete lockdown, everything will be stopped, nothing will work, and we will be stuck at home. It's like a mini vacation, but only at home. But after this almost 2 months of lockdown period, I guess it has never been kind of a vacation period. Even working professionals like sir, you might be having, Abir sir, you have your own experience when you might be having deadlines, schedules, meetings, which might be going into odd hours also. Now, when we have office hours, we know this is an office hour, this is a personal hour, and we can have this demarcation. But this is one thing that has happened. So this is where I think infrastructure can be a kind of a advantage. If in the present times, if we say India, infrastructure, even if it's a kind of a challenge, but somehow we have been able to overcome the same. Like, for example, what Nizam sir was saying about the research abilities. Now, India having access to so many research methods, or rather research databases, all the present internet age has allowed us to even access materials from across the globe. And now with access to Byju's, as you said, for schools, and also on the same app, we can have courses that can be even taken up for higher education purposes also. So these applications are actually a part of the infrastructure itself. But the only problem that we face is when the understanding of the infrastructure is not so great with the people at large. Like, I'm talking about the awareness. Like, when in our institute we started with online classes, we had the option of Zoom. That's it. Though we were using Google, we were using Google as a premium subscriber, we never explored the options that Google provides us. This is mostly for many of us that the same thing must have been happening, because most of us over here must have signed with their Google account. But even if Google provides us with all the security enhanced features, as we understand that Google has some privacy issues, but security has been one of the major, you can say, the cornerstone of Google itself. So we did not explore Google Meet or Google Hangout, or for that matter, Google Classroom also, that feature. Instead, we tried to adopt a foreign infrastructure because everybody started doing. So that is what I think is a major hurdle that we have understood, according to me, that infrastructure was there, but how to use that infrastructure has been the biggest problem. Putting it to use. This is one. And secondly, for one other thing that I would like to highlight, that when we talk about academics, I find in response to what we have been discussing about on the market impact, internships, placements, these are certain things that will go on even in the days to come by. They will also pick up. I'm not commenting on that. But my question is, what about the entrepreneurs? Now there will be a fund crunch. Now there will be a problem where the young entrepreneurs who are there, they will not find the liquidity. What about them? That is what I think is the biggest challenge at the present moment. To all the young people who might have been dreaming that they will be the next Sachin Bansal, or they might be the next Mark Zuckerberg, whatever they were dreaming, they were having these visions in their mind. Now this will come to a standstill because of sudden liquidity crunch. Now this is something which we cannot control. Even though we can provide learning to them, but how to go beyond that? Learning in this present world, as we know, is not restricted to only bookish learning. Now that has been, the boundaries has been delineated under the present online tool, online mechanism of teaching also. But the question is, if a student is having that vision, how can we support them? That is the present question that I think will be looming in the minds of the people who are willing to take up their own or pursue their own dreams, and rather than not being placed under any one single individual entity or an individual for that matter. So this is, I think, is the biggest challenge that I think this academic sector will be facing, where the lockdown will also lock down the dreams of the people who now will not even have the dareness to think. Because whenever they go for any kind of funds or these things, most of the banks will straight away say, no, we'll not enter into this high risk business. Chances of defaults are higher. The banks are now even skeptical even in lending money to salaried persons who are considered to be as one of the safe bets. So that is actually one of the biggest threat that I feel in academics. The faculty will face a big challenges in motivating the students in becoming entrepreneurs, which I think every stream wants, every person or every student wants to become. someday or other.
I think you have pointed
Agree,
out
sir.
very relevant
Good.
two things. One is just to I see is work from home. That is going to be a new normal thing, and I think that might be a good thing for some. That might be for some professions it may not be work from home. Like for since here there are lawyer communities, we have to go to courts and all. But obviously that it is happening, e-filing and all these things are happening, but work from home would be one of the thing. Second, what important point you have touched upon, and actually we are facing, because we advise a lot of startups and fintechs, and they are going to have a funding crunch. In fact, prior to lockdown also they used to have, because they don't have anything, any
Yes,
real asset. They, what they have is the intellectual property.
correct.
Whether that would grow or not, that is something which is not known to anyone. So getting funds from banks and financial institution or a regular funding mechanics was very difficult for them.
Mm.
I think it is going to be a challenging thing for them. People who would be passing out from IIT and having good sort of ideas, maybe that they would get a problem to implement those.
Yes, sir.
Oh, right, sir. Sir, the thing is, how do you see the economy of the country? If lockdown will continue for next month or next 2 months, then what will happen to the economy of the country? It's already
Yeah,
we are lacking some. Yeah, please.
can I answer this?
Sure, sure, sir.
Yeah. So very pertinently, I would say, Mr. Abir Lal Day and Mr. Victor Nayak, I think they have touched the cornerstone of the problem. They have touched to the summary of the problem, that what the problem is actually lying in the economy. Just to talk about few things, I have collected some data today. I was studying about the quarterly four results. So I will start my points from here, and it will really tell us that what kind of challenges we are going to face ahead. You see, today I was studying the quarterly four results of the last financial year of few companies. Nippon Life, AMC. I'm just going to talk about the big companies, multinational companies, and there are some small companies also. But here I am giving the data of some very big companies who are the market leaders in their respective sectors. Nippon Life Asset Management Company quarter four profit plummets 97.5%. Tata Chemicals quarter four results, profit after tax down 48% to rupees 198 crores. Take Mahindra quarter four results, net profit fell 30%. And the biggie of all the companies, Reliance Industries Limited, reported its steepest drop in quarterly four profits at least 13 years, as its mainstay refining units was hurt by lower sales and margins due to the collapse in crude oil prices. So we know very well that nowadays that there is no demand of the crude oil, no demand of the refineries, no, all the businesses are stops, and it is also true that the world is not going to be same what we have seen before the novel coronavirus, and simultaneously we have to prepare for one thing, that the business is also not going to be same during and post lockdown, because as you have mentioned that there will be the issue of demand and liquidity. And I will go ahead with the perspective of something what has been said by the International Monetary Fund chief, Ms. Kristalina Georgieva, on March 28 to 2020. So before 2 months back itself, she warned the world that a new recession, a new wave of recession is coming, which is going to be worse than the recession of 2009. So the two things I am going to focus upon with regard to how the novel COVID is going to impact the corporate market. I would mention two things. One is the demand, and second is the liquidity. We are looking that there is no demand. Secondly, once the demand is generated, when the lockdown is relaxed, once it is ended, then the very relevant question, as the panelists have mentioned that what will be the situation of liquidity. We have to control over the situation of liquidity, and one thing is to be noted out here that before the coronavirus itself, as our guest panelist has also mentioned, that we were already facing the liquidity crunch because of the fall of ILFS. The ILFS company, it was the 2,500 crore company, but about the fall of ILFS, somebody pertinently said that it was not only the loss of just 2,500 crore, rather because of the collapse of this ILFS, the Indian economy lost the liquidity of 2.5 lakhs crore. Why? Because here I would like to go something which is going to be technical in nature. There is something we use, financial contagion. Once a company fails, then its impact is felt to the other companies, and because of the failure of one company, the other company also falls, and this ripple effect spreads in the economy, and because of this the recession comes. So 2008 recession, 1997 Asian financial crisis, they are the classic example of financial contagion. So now the question is that what is going to happen once the market is going to open, because this pandemic is going to be here for a year or two maybe. This is the pandemic, it comes once in every 100 years, and once it has come, it is expected to stay for maybe a few months more, or maybe 1 year or 2 years more. So what is going to happen in this business, and how the financial contagion to be managed, how the liquidity problem is to be managed? Probably this is the biggest task of our lawmaker and the policymakers.
So Ghazal ma'am have a questions to Abir sir. Ma'am, you can please ask.
Yeah, thank you, Ruturaj. Abir sir, I just want to know, like as an academician, online teaching can go, but from your point of view, sitting in the market, what do you expect? How we should groom our students? Because corporate world is gonna ask for many things, and what we do practically out at the office, we cannot provide everything online. So, as an entrepreneur or as an employee or as a lawyer as well, what you expect? I would on behalf of the students, want to know what students should bring into them other than what teachers are going, because even with academics, though going online, how big or low the infrastructure be, but moving to the practicality and moving to the offices is entirely different. What we do with hands, we cannot see and learn on the screen. Internships is an impact. There will be an impact on the internships as well. Moving to the offices, learning with the senior employees, learning how to draft, basically the first thing what we teach as well, and the counseling skills, other things. Please put some light over this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I think it's a very pertinent questions, and we ourselves are also facing the same sort of issues when we got into lockdown and then we started serving the clients. First of all, I think from student perspective, yes, when they come out of college, there would be a new sort of setup would be awaiting for them, because already most of the law firms have started doing virtual internship. Now virtual internship is happening, but many a times what is happening, we also as a senior are not very accustomed with the virtual thing. Many a senior, not about myself, there are like very senior partner is there who may not be accustomed with a lot of technologies, so they are having problem, I think, but slowly they will be coping up with this thing and they will be used to it. So one is that yes, virtual internships are happening and it is going to happen going forward if this situation would be there for longer time. Second thing, in terms of preparing, the student should know the technological skills, because now technology is going to play a major role in terms of managing clients, in terms of managing expectation of the client, and in terms of dealing with the people, because it is going to be there. for some time. So technological skills, they need to know how the technology is going to work in the legal field, and whatever new technologies are coming, I think they need to adapt those technologies so that they are ready to imbibe the whole thing when they join any profession. In fact, courts have started doing e-filing, e-pleading and everything. So I think we are moving towards that way. In terms of opportunities, yes, this is going to be a difficult market. But again, I think Kushal sir, Ajit sir has stated about the economic crisis and all. We are basically agricultural based country, so there would be agricultural produce, there would be little bit of demand and supply would be there. And obviously in other field, like as we discussed about startups and all, there would be impact. Even small companies and other companies would get impacted, so as the business. But there are businesses like pharma, like other essential services provider, they are going to grow, and there would be opportunities there for students. I think they need to learn those new scope of law, new things. Like for example, we never used to discuss so much about force major and frustration of contract, but post COVID, post lockdown, force major and frustration of contract came into place very much. So contractual aspect also, they need to be very solid about it. So these are my initial thoughts about it. I would request other panelists also to add on to it. That would be helpful for the students as well.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I would like to say with regard to the 2008 recession. So when I was in the companies, and my team leader would say, once more recession means more litigation. And so lawyer work has to go, and Abir sir has rightly said that, of course, there are certain sectors of the economy like pharma sector, and maybe even technology sector, and especially the sectors which are related to the medical and medical equipment, it will grow well. So some sort of demand is going to be there. So I would also like to advise you students that you should be able to cautious, and you should just see carefully that from where the demand is coming, where the more requirement is coming. And once you see the more requirement is coming from a particular sector, particular area, just try to fetch the benefit. I mean, just go and join their job. You can get the all the employment over there.
Sir, for example, today only I was discussing drone law. There are drones, correct, which would
Drone law,
supply
yes.
things.
Yes,
Now
yes.
there is no such law is there, correct, but we can obviously look from the developed country how these are coming, because this is going to come. Drones is
Yes,
going to be
yes,
the new
yes.
thing.
Yes.
Similarly, fintech now, earlier we used to deal and we used to go to the banks, but everything now, loan passing, everything is going to happen through fintech. So these are the new things. I think we need to be mindful about it. And maybe you as a you as a college, maybe think of adding this sort of courses. Obviously study materials and other materials are less, but maybe some lecture or some sort of taking the examples of other countries, student can get a lot of advantage to it.
Sir, if I may just add one more point to this discussion, even though a lot of points have been mentioned, I think one point that was mentioned by our very own Chief Justice a few months back now, that was regarding the use of artificial intelligence.
Correct.
And I think with the new age of e-filing and with the advancement of technology, work from home, cutting down of the working staff and so much thing, I think the next big revolution, if is anything that is to happen in the legal arena or in a law profession, if I'm to say, that will be with respect to use of AI in the legal profession. And this is something which even I think all the students should be very cautious about and should be understanding. Nowadays, ministry is offering even various courses. The ministry is also offering various, you can say, free webinars also, and there are various other such courses on AI. Now, the best part of AI is for a law person to understand, it's very easy because there is no law in it. But the worst part for a law person is that there are so many legal issues, and speaking from the liability part, deciding about what nature of work will they do, everything is a big challenge. So that's why I think AI will be the next big thing that even I think the law student should be focusing upon. We teachers need to understand, because the way we are interacting with technology now every day, there has been a recent debate going on between Facebook and Tesla owner Elon Musk, if I'm not wrong, regarding the quantum of AI and what damage it can do. So there is a debate that is going on about how much of AI is there in the field, and so I believe the amount of damage that AI can do in the present day is way beyond our comprehension than even a simple COVID-19 could do. So in the future days to come by, it is very important that as a law student, the person should be able to understand AI also, in addition to the points that has been mentioned, like while they are going for internships. Because in the days to come by, even all the senior lawyers would also feel the requirement that they need to understand AI. Without AI, in the future, happening or surviving in the legal field will be a bit difficult, I believe.
I think you are exactly bang on point, and many law firms have already started
Yes.
bringing AI. Like one of the thing is Kira, which would
Hmm.
typically do automated diligence,
Yes.
automated document review, which would reduce the lawyer's time, and
Hmm.
lawyers could do more meaningful work going forward instead of doing the normal things which
Hmm.
they used to do. That is one aspect, I think, which is going to happen. The AI development, and student needs to be aware of AI and how it is going to integrate their working with the, as and when they join the profession, and how they are going to integrate it. That is one of the important aspect, I agree.
Here I would like to one add one more thing. What you all have said like is fine, but this work from home and this going on everything online. So now artificial intelligence, as you said, that this is now taking very advantage and playing a crucial role, and this subject is now being in demand. So what we can say that now this is also with respect to cyber law. There are a lot of cyber threat and cyber security issues are going on, a data protection thing which are going on. So there are a lot of cyber things like deep, dark, and deep net. These are the things, these are the terms which is not very clear and which is not very understandable by the student. So if each and everything is going through online, so now a student has to gear up, student has to learn a lot of things about this particular cyber law. Although this cyber law subject is of 20th century, 20th century, like it has been started around 1990 and 2000 when this IT Act came. So at that time till 2000 till 2020, there are not very much advancement and in the field, what you can say, in respect of knowledge in the students about the cyber law. So now this time student have also be to very clear about the each and every aspects and the provisions related to cyber law. They are just talking about with respect to the this section 66A of that particular IT Act. When this Shreya single case, right to freedom of speech expression came, there are a lot of provision under this IT Act which are important and which are also required to be noticed of all those aspects. So if this time, which is going to be an online education and which is also going to be everything online, work from home, so we also have to think about that what are the current and existing cyber law provision and all these information technologies act, and what are the future threats and the challenges that may happen with respect to this particular online education and this online things. So we have to regulate and we have to protect all these things, keeping just saying that when this thing will happen in future. then we will see that what can be done with respect to protecting of all those data protections. Like what this data protection bill is required to become, and it's about to come. So with respect to that data protection bill, which has, it is providing the protections. So we means the students are also required to know about the data protection, how the data can be protected. In daily day-to-day life, they are facing a lot of challenges with respect to this mobile apps, which are trying to access their credentials, login credentials, without the awareness of those particular users. So this is also required to be protected. So apart from this artificial intelligence and other marketing aspects, this cyber security and this data protection and this all these cyber and information technology issues are also required to be taken care very seriously, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, very pertinent. And I think in addition to that, intellectual property right is also one of the important thing. Now, if
Yes.
you would see 30, 40 years back, the companies used to have real asset like land, building and all. Today, all the big companies, they don't have real asset per se, Facebook and others, Amazon and all. They only have intellectual property. So I think then student need to focus on intellectual property laws as well, because going forward I think that intellectual property right laws experience would help them going forward. I think Dr. Ajim Khan wanted to add something. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, Azim sir. Patan sir, you wanted to say anything?
I think there's some audio,
There is some technical
there's
issue,
some
I think.
audio issue
I think
with his.
And
So
he
what?
has written, he has some
Okay.
inputs and questions
In chat.
yeah,
in chat. Yeah.
yeah, maybe he can answer
Okay,
later. I
okay.
think he
Let him
muted.
come. So what Abir sir has just pointed out here, I would also like to add more thing about this IPR, what he has discussed. So with respect to this IPR, like India is also working very hard with respect to this invention and creativity. And very recently, we have come with an IPR policy, which is talking about just making awareness and this creativity and awareness all about. Like our R&D is not very much well equipped and very much advanced like other countries. For that, we are pushing to all Indians that just to have this IP protections. If you can invent, if you can't have your any creativity or originality, then you can also protect that things. So by this particular online things, now there are a lot of intellectual property aspects can also come into picture. Like you can take the example of this Zoom on which we are just discussing. The particular story is of about of Zoom is in the knowledge of all, that how it has been started and what they have done. So there are what in starting Victor sir has said that when this particular lockdown has started and this online teaching was being started, so we were just aware about this Zoom classes. So there are a lot of online resources are available. So a student can also do certain creativity for just creating certain kinds of Zoom, Google Meet kind of platform. For that, they can just protect all these inventions under this IPR, and then they can also be the entrepreneur. What just Victor sir was saying, that this particular thing students can face with respect to entrepreneurship. This IPR is not doing anything. They are not being required very much financial assistance. This can be done like with respect to the patents, the all the patents which has been taken or be patented in India is not of from Indian. There are hardly 2-3% of all the patent what has been patented in India has been patented by Indians. Means around 96 to 97% patent which has been patented in India or from the outsiders, foreigners. This Japanese and this Chinese persons, they have patented. So now it is a good time for our Indian also that they can do certain creativity and invention and they can protect all these things under this patent law. But like there are a lot of challenges, and India is a country of challenge. We are facing a lot of challenges. So here, this online things for applying this patent will also come into the picture, and the challenges will come with respect to how we can get the patent from the Indian Patent Office, which is a government office, and the government bureaucrats.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how they are going to do those things, because the
Yes.
current system, if we apply for any patent or any IPR things, then it is taking usually 2 to 3 years for getting a patent of a particular new invention and creativity. And you are aware that this patent is of just 20 years. So if in starting for getting the process of getting the patent is being wasted just for 2 or 3 years, the monopoly cannot be done. Although the priority right can be given to that particular inventor who has applied for the patent, but this monopoly will be given to that very patented person when the ultimate grant of the patent will be given. So hardly 14-15 years the particular individual will be able to get. So these are the challenges that we also means the government offices, and we Indian also have to gear up to provide this particular patented things in very short time, so that this can also give certain encouragements to the students and to the original creators who can do certain invention and creativity. That's it.
Ajim Pathan sir want to say something. Sir, please now.
Yeah, it's a wonderful discussion indeed. From all panelists, indeed, a lot of learning for the students, especially in the background of this COVID-19. Very aptly, Mr. Nizam, Mr. Victor, and even, Dr. Ajit Kaushal and our panelist, Mr. Abir Lal, they have, given very aptly, and more specifically, Mr. Victor and Mr. Nizam, they were talking about how exactly in the background of this COVID-19, post-COVID-19, how exactly students, they should look into now new opportunities and new avenues, especially in this cyber crimes, data privacy, then more specifically artificial intelligence. These are very important area, of course. Those areas will be very important, and the skill buildings in these particular areas for the students will be very important, and they have to develop, just like capacity building for gaining and getting different important employment in the market or legal market. Besides that, I feel, and that is my opinion, I'm sure panelists, they must be having their other important opinion as well on this particular aspect. But I find that in coming time, in the background of this economic recession, which we will definitely we will be confronting with, I find that many companies, many corporations, whatever disputes will be coming, so they will also be trying to resolve many disputes. It may be overseas as well, or overseas dispute as well, that the more opportunity, I feel, it will also come in the domain of this online dispute resolution or online arbitration process. Because in that particular process, I find and I feel that students, they can also look into, they can also find out, how they can enhance their capability. Because I'm finding that I was, seeing this Coursera courses, certificate courses and degree courses. There are a lot of different important courses in online model or through capacity building, through this arbitration, online dispute resolution system. So those courses are being provided there. So I feel that students in this coming time, they can also look into in those important areas as well, besides this artificial intelligence, data privacy. And I find to tackle with this economic recession, government as well in coming time, they will be needing a lot of important policy drafting. How to tackle, where to do, cost cutting. Because I was trying, and we were also doing certain important analysis of this governance of the country, and where we were finding that how exactly cost cutting can also happen through administrative work or through even legislative work or through even judicial work as well. Now judiciary, of course, they will be listening certain urgent matter based on this 23rd March 2020, their important circular, they are already hearing. But I'm sure in judiciary and justice administration as well, in coming time, a new avenue for online or digital justice administration, it will come into, because it will go long away. It will go for a long time. And as an inbuilt mechanism that has to be built in the existing legal system, that online dispute resolution system through existing judiciary or hierarchy of the judiciary, at the same time for market-driven certain disputes, how exactly we can, resolve through this online arbitration process or online dispute resolution process. So there I find, again, there will be a lot of opportunity for the student. So student, they should also look into those important subject matters. That's what I just feel. And that was indeed, I just wanted to add here for this discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Azim sir. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to ask to our guest panelist.
Sir, please have a short of time. So let's ask some questions from students.
Yeah, sure. Please carry on.
Yeah, students, if anyone have a question, please ask your question.
Hi, I have a question. Can I put up?
Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah. So this is a question for all the panelists per se. We all have been hearing all the issues about online classes and e-filing, e-courts, e-governance. Each and every term which is coming before us is having the letter E in front of it. Now I want to ask one thing. Why are we really not talking about the pendency of Data Protection Bill 2019 in this particular time? We are talking about everything, e-filing, e-court, all of it, I understand. But don't you think before starting everything in the virtual form or electronic form, we need to have a concrete data protection law at place? And why is the government, the lawmakers, everyone actually have kept their mouth shut about it? This is a question for all the panelists.
I will just add here. Yeah, a very important question indeed. Data and data privacy, it has become very vulnerable issue in the background of this COVID-19, because many important apps are coming, like we have recently seen this Arogya Setu or other important apps from the government side, where private players are also in between involved. So we don't have exactly presently a proper law-driven system or guideline, and Data Protection Bill 2019 still it is pending. But now, without having proper deliberation and discussion in the Parliament, this particular bill cannot get the assent from the side of President, because as far as concerning to protection of fundamental right, as far as concerning to protection of human rights of the citizens, deliberation that is required, and here the situation has just come, like we have to keep social distancing. So special session as well of the Parliament presently is not possible, but there is possibility that special ordinance making process can be initiated, but that is ultimately again dependent on the will of the government. That is ultimately dependent on how they should prioritize this all subject matter in this present background of COVID-19, because their major concentration presently is that how exactly we can tackle with this pandemic, how different health ministry can bring into existence important immediate norm. Their concentration is presently on those important subject matter. Of course, because there are a lot of incidents are also occurring, that there is data breach in between, certain apps, certain leakage of personal information is happening. But ultimately, concentration should be on these important issues as well. Of course, judiciary, they are also having, inherent power to take up this kind of issues so moto, but their concentration is always presently on this subject matter, how we can give proper justice administration in urgent subject matter. So presently, of course, this is gray area, and I'm sure other panelists, they must be also having their opinion on this.
I even want to add to it in this case.
Yeah,
according to me, being a professor in law, I would say the whole idea of virtual, the word virtual is failing if we are not able to tackle the main important issue in the amidst of this corona outbreak. Because be it schools, universities, offices, government, NGOs, healthcare, everything, food deliveries, banking sector, they all are relying on the online or the virtual mode. But the crux of it, data infringement, data privacy, we are unable to tackle it.
Yeah. So we have justice administration available. This is directly core issue of human right that can be directly taken up, even if government presently is ignoring on this particular subject matter because they have to prioritize other important health emergency related issues. But judiciary is so moto, I feel that as a matter of human right, they can take up this particular issue in their hand. That's what my
Sir, if I may just add to this, I think presently this bill is under the consideration of the Joint Parliamentary Committee.
yeah.
And till the year or till the month of February or March, I guess I just need to check. It was open for public comments and viewing.
Yes.
So I think that process is going on. Once it has been tabled for discussion, there have been a lot of objections that have been raised against this particular bill, especially with reference to data localization. There have been a lot of objections.
Right.
As most of the cloud servers or that we find are not present in India, and there have been a lot of liabilities that have been also been fixed with reference to individuals. So I think the bill is undergoing second or third reading. Second reading most probably will be happening.
Yeah.
And in the present era, without this bill, we are all vulnerable. That's true. So that is where the importance comes of self-discipline. If we are not able to understand what kind of information we are sharing on the internet, if you are not able to understand what kind of information we are trying to provide over there, then it becomes very risky. And that is where I think the problem came up with this particular application also, Zoom. Once it just zoomed and skyrocketed, their share prices, everything went up, but they failed to take note of the security breaches. That is when everybody, the hackers, started to take note of it and they hacked into it. And that was the same time when Zoom was again taken down. And that's why subsequently we found that Zoom, when many people started reporting, even the government of India said it's very unsafe. They have now come up with much better security features. So this is what we need to understand, what we are using, how we are using. If the government is not trying to help us now, we are left on our own at the present moment. That is my observation.
I sorry to interrupt. I just want to know on the practical ground. Abir sir, I just sent you a message. Like you being a practical man in this, like you are sitting in the market, you are dealing with the local people. We are academicians. We are just grooming students, new lawyers. But from your point of view, in banking sector and in corporate, like how is the correlation between the questions put by Ms. Pooja and all? Like coming up, no doubt security, data security is an issue, but how you as a professional sitting in the market and in the office cope it with?
So, in terms of data security, it's a huge debatable topic, and as Mr. Nayak and others have said, this has to go through within the process. And obviously, when the bill would be enacted into law, I think we would get more clarity on the data protection. And like when insolvency code came in 2016, after that there has been many amendment happened. Similarly, we would see that there could be a lot of new things would be added as and when act would come in. Now in terms of banking finance and otherwise, data protection is an issue, because what happens, a lot of data are being used by a lot of NBFCs, non-banking financial corporations. Like when I'm booking a cab through the Uber, okay, and I'm going to a restaurant. Now if I'm doing it for the 5 times, those are the things stored, and those are the things now can be shared with any bank. and that bank would know my expenditure pattern, and then automatically then that bank would connect with me for more and more loans. So it's a very difficult thing. But then when this sort of issue came up, then they changed the whole thing. They said this is just a social sort of thing. We are not doing a data thing. We are taking a sort of, we are taking a sort of social,
kind of a
habitual
survey.
thing. Correct. Social
Yes,
survey.
sir.
Correct. Yeah, Victor, you wanted to add something? Please go ahead. I think
No, sir. That was it. That was it.
yeah. So it's a very important topic, important thing in terms of banking finance, because many a time many new fintech companies and NBFCs are using data for their use. And in fact, if you see, if you are doing a search on something on Facebook, automatically Facebook would start showing you that advertise if you do a Google. So is all these things are connected. And I think what Mr. Nayak has said, we need to be mindful. I think we need to be mindful that how we are going to act upon it, what all apps and how much information we are going to share. Obviously, there are issues in terms of our own inability, like Zoom app also, we have to continue knowing fully that there are issues in terms of data security and all, but we had no other option during lockdown other than Zoom or other. There were very limited apps. But yes, with market pressure, with peer pressure, and with other pressure from public and government, things can be aligned.
Adding to what you all have said regarding this, all these things, data protection. So what Victor has said, that the government is doing their part, and there are certain recent developments. I just got the information from the government official sources. They are saying that because of the recent challenges, there are certain changes which are being implemented and which are also under consideration by this data protection bill. So that is why government is doing their process, and this data protection bill will come into as an act in due course. But apart from that, what Victor has said, that we also have to be aware, and we means the citizens of India, we also have to be cautious about all these things. So now, as we as a teacher have to take the role of this particular subject, is a very important subject, that is of cyber law, like all the core subjects of constitutions and criminal law and CPC. So like that, this subject is being taken very seriously, and a student has to study this subject very seriously, and they have to understand each and every cyber law issues very clearly. So not depending upon the very much to the government, they also have to be self-dependent, what the recently our Prime Minister has said. So we have to be self-dependent with respect to all these things. And there are, what the question Pooja ma'am, I think Pooja ma'am, the question was asked by the Pooja ma'am. So what Pooja ma'am has said, that there are lot of challenges, like there are the very major challenge with respect to economy. The government is addressing that economic challenges, and they are also simultaneously working on this particular thing. And like what happened with respect to this Zoom app recently, so they have initiated the process to some fast for the passing of this particular bill. And in future, in very recent near future, we can see that this data protection bill can be passed by the government, because there are a lot of debates, there are a lot of debative things with respect to this particular bill. Because of that, this is taking certain times. And now this is a time, like this particular thing, what has been said in this particular data protection is now being witnessed, and is now being faced by each and every person. Now each and every person is understanding the importance of this data protection bill. So they will also be gearing up and will be giving the push to that particular government to just push hard to that for the passing of this particular.
Okay, Nizam, back to the audience.
Yeah,
The
please,
students are
students,
waiting for the.
we have less time,
Yes,
Yeah,
number
yeah.
of questions.
Let your students ask the
Please,
question. Yeah.
please proceed.
Yeah, if anyone have question, please ask. Students.
From the group of students, questions, please.
Any question anyone can ask.
The participants, the students can come up with their queries.
Okay, I have a questions to Abir sir. What are the major steps corporate sector needs to take, and what major step government is taking for corporate sector?
So, see, central as well as state governments are coming up, but as other panelists have said, that the idea is to first to safeguard the health and well-being of the people. So governments are coming up with that measure. In addition to that, Reserve Bank of India has come up on March 17th and March 27th and April 17th, a lot of measures in terms of bringing in liquidity in the market within the banks and financial institutions, as well as they have exercised their power to bring in certain regulatory measures within the market. In addition to RBI, SEBI has also issued a lot of circulars which would benefit the listed companies in terms of avoiding the compliances during this thing. Now, most important thing is IBBI, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. Now, what happened? Government came up central government increased the default from 1 lakh to 1 crore. So
Yes,
obviously
yes.
that was a very good move. I think this would have helped a lot of MSME and small businesses going into the liquidation route. And now today, finance minister has also announced that there would be 1 year sort of standstill period for IBC. Though there are two sort of views are appearing. One is that simply putting a standstill would have a problem because the investors, global investors, would be little worry about the things the way the IBC code's powers have been taken away. However, we have to see domestically there are a lot of issues faced by the domestic players, and this would help them a lot in terms of coping up with the problem. In addition to that, MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, also have come up with many measures to delay the filing or giving additional time for filing. And most important thing, I think we can discuss this, is the new FDI rules, which basically stopped any neighboring country to invest. Okay, now earlier it used to be Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan, and for Pakistan it used to be a very stringent rule. Now government very intelligently has put in this, because what is going to happen for students and others, there would be a distress M&A which is going to take place after this. There are corporates, they have a lot of money, and they would try and take the businesses at a lesser price. But just to stop Chinese aggressive, acquisition, government came up with that FDI rule as well as FPI rule, foreign promotional investment rules, wherein there are a lot of restrictions put in. So these are the measures actually government and various nodal bodies have come up with in addition to COVID, general measures.
Yes,
Any other
I have a
panelists?
question. Yeah, just a minute. I have a question from our expert panelist. Sir, how do you see the contractual work related to contract drafting is changing during the novel coronavirus? You have mentioned a little about it when you spoke. Can you elaborate a little bit more about it so that our students could take some kind of hang of it?
So first of all, students should read the Victoria's Secret deal, which has happened and which is being disputed right now. And one of the important clause, David Polk, it's a very big law firm, and they had their lawyers had put in relation to pandemic, and now the other party is not able to get out of the contract due to that clause. So as I initially told all the students that you need to be mindful that going forward, force majeure, frustration of contract, these are the sections which are going to come up very major way. And though force majeure is not an Indian concept, it's a French concept, and India there is no statute. So court will basically take the lead in terms of taking it forward, that how a judicial pronouncement will determine that how force majeure would be determined and how a contract can be terminated. Uh, During this COVID situation, we have seen many commercial leases, many commercial contracts are being terminated. There were issues in terms of employees working from home, whether that could be a ground for termination or not. There are certain activities which need to be done in office, and there were employees, they were resisting to go to office in Bangalore, and at other part it happened. They were IT people,
Yes.
but they said, I'm going to contact COVID, I'm not going to go. Then company was coming up with coming to us with giving us the solution how to go ahead. So I think it's a very challenging and very interesting time for all the lawyers, be it academician, be it lawyer, be it student. And I think we need to be mindful about that, how the judiciary is going to go forward from here.
Sir, since
there is a
you are sitting
question.
in the market, can I proceed?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, since you are sitting in the market, so one question naturally I'm going to have out here with regard to the contract drafting, that I'm just asking that once the employees are working from their home, whether it raised any kind of confidentiality issue, because I remember
Yes.
I have been in industry for quite a long time, and it was the precondition of the client that the employee has to sit within a particular part of the office. They cannot go out, and many other restrictions.
Yes, very pertinent questions. And there are issues in terms of data security, data privacy also. There are certain offices. Now, what has happened due to sudden lockdown, certain employees are working on their own laptop. There is no system. Like there are system of Citrix, which are like virtual data services provider, but many of the offices may not have it. And there could be a data security issues happening. As far as contracts are there, I agree with you that many contracts have not envisaged this sort of
Working
issues,
style,
and there
yes.
is no SOP procedure
Yes.
for that. But many companies are now coming with the SOP, and they're intimating the employees, as well as now it is going to be that the contracts are going to change, the employment contracts. We are seeing a lot of changes in the employment contract. So this is also one of the important area that where student needs to be aware of, that how the contract drafting is going to change going forward, and what are the essential ingredients like force majeure, like termination of contract due to what grounds, like this security, data security, data privacy, how it is going to be incorporated in the contract as well.
Yeah, so there is a question from a student, Sumit Singh. He says, after the lockdown, how can the corporate sector will revive itself due to high losses?
Okay, so basically there is a cash flow mismatch which has happened within the corporate sector, and this is going to be there. But central government and RBI have instructed the banks to put in lot of liquidity. To that extent, RBI has reduced the repo rate and have done multiple measures in terms of increasing the liquidity within the market. But yes, initially there is going to be a problem for the corporate to overcome this sort of sudden stress. And the lockdown happened suddenly, and there were no sort of preparation happened, because the idea was to safeguard the people, and so that this pandemic should not spread within the country, because our country is heavily densely populated. And if it would have spread, this would have been a case like America. US. So now once the lockdown situation will be out in phase wise, there would be some sort of stress within the market. But I think in terms of various packages like priority loan, working capital facility, and there would be other liquidity injection is happening within the market by RBI to the banks and financial institution. With that, I think corporate would come back, but it is going to take time. It is not going to immediate. It is going to take at least year and a half or 2 years.
Yes, Rituraj, anybody else?
Yeah, anybody have any question? We don't have much time, so students, if anyone have any question, we can entertain that. Okay, sir, discuss about what we, Ajit sir, please ask what you are saying.
Yes, so I was telling you, see, presently regarding to the last question and what Mr. Abir has said just now. Presently, you see the wheel of the economy is completely stopped as it is reflected in the various quarter four result of the previous financial year, which are coming very frequently. So very rightly said that there are certain sectors of economy which is remaining unaffected, or it is going to reap the benefit out of this novel coronavirus. But of course, now the challenge is going to be during and post lockdown, that how to restart the wheel of economy. So you see the instances are coming where the money is directly being put in the Jan Dhan account, in the women who are holding the Jan Dhan account. 20 lakh crore package has been announced by the finance minister. She is working hard and daily coming with certain kinds of update to this sector, that sector, to MSME, and what has happened earlier with regard to the ILFS liquidity crunch to avoid such kind of situation, or what has happened in 2008 recession, which I already said that it is a classic case of financial contagion, to avoid again such kind repetition of such kind of financial contagion. So the lawmakers, policymakers are coming forward. They are taking various measures, and what I would say, as per my understanding, the goal lies in just two things. One is to prevent any kind of financial contagion as it happened in the previous recession of 2008, 2009, and also to inject liquidity in the economy. Once the liquidity is provided, once the process of the economy, once it starts, then it will run its own. This is the nature of the business of economy. So the major challenge, if you ask that what is the major challenge right now, so major challenge, I would say that we are going to face the major challenge, or we are facing, as in terms of the IMF chief, as he warned earlier, that the problem of liquidity. And once the liquidity comes in the market after the novel coronavirus, the market is open, and once the liquidity comes there, then the wheel of the economy will start itself. It will run its own.
So we have one question from YouTube. Saying, in many countries have wave of loans, rent, etc. If we talk about India, so it's not waived out of, but the time is extended, pay the debts. How will poor people can take loans?
Yeah, correct. So we have provided moratorium of loan, and the moratorium is given for 3 months. And after 3 months, again, I think if this COVID situation would continue, RBI may come up with further measure, but waiving of loan would create a lot of imbalance in the economy, because the moment you waive off the loan, then there is an asset liability mismatch within the banking system and within the financial system of a company. So waiving of a loan for a country like India would not be a possibility, and therefore moratorium has been indicated in the beginning of the COVID scenario. Now we are just 3 months into this scenario, and this impact is going to be a long term, and depending on the impact, depending on how businesses is going to come back after post lockdown period, and how all other corporates and public demand and supply is going to happen. Depending on that, I think the RBI and central government would take a call. But waiving of loan would create a lot of issues within the financial market. Ajit
Yes.
sir, you wanted to say something?
Yes, sir. With regard to the waiving the loan, the question is very important that we have a very large strata of the population, very large strata of the people who are sitting in the last corner of the economy. They are very poor. They have nothing to eat. They are going on food from one place to other place.
Yeah,
These pictures.
Ajit sir, to this context, we have a question. May I ask, please? Like the students from the
Ma'am,
YouTube?
just 1 minute. I
Okay,
will finish.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I will finish quickly.
Yeah.
So these are very painful pictures which are coming out here. But as I said, that with regard to the liquidity, one thing is very important, and this is the, you can say, centerfold of our economics, that the government has to manage its fiscal deficit. At no cost, in no scenario, it can allow the fiscal deficit to go out of the control. If the fiscal deficit goes out of the control, then there will be the situation of inflation, and the entire cycle of the economy is going to be disturbed. So while waiving the loan for the poor, the government will have to take care of this particular thing, that the fiscal has to be in the control. Presently, fiscal is hovering around 3.5%, which is very healthy figure. But the 20 lakh package is coming. Maybe fiscal deficit is going to increase by 0.5% or 1% more. And if it reaches to the 4.5%, I would say that it is going to ring the alarm bell for the economy.
And I think
you have already answered that. I was talking about the migrants and their economy itself. Yes, sir, please, Abir sir.
Yeah. And also the point is that waiving of loan is happening for the agriculturist and all. It's not that.
Yes, it is happening very frequently.
It's very frequently is happening. But if you do it as a mass way, then it is, as Ajit sir has stated, that this is going to create a problem, fiscal problem.
What is the most important part with regard to the fiscal, that inflation is going to depend upon the fiscal. If you waive loan, fiscal will increase, and once the fiscal is increasing, then the inflation will increase. Then what is the benefit of giving the loan? Correct. If the purchasing power is down for the people, then what is the benefit of giving such kind of subsidies and waiving the loan? So it is not going to put a very healthy scenario for the economy. It has been going in India, I'm very sorry to say, past 60 years, 70 years, and it is one of the reasons why India is a poor economy.
Though inhabited by rich.
Yes, very rightly said. Inhabited by rich.
Yes, correct.
So there is a question from YouTube. Let me ask. Do you think it will help Do you think it will help poor people to improve their situation or put them in more?
Dr. Ajit indirectly replied that only. That is what I was telling about the economy.
One more question is there, sir. Yeah. Sir, can be the Chinese corporation be made criminally liable under the concept of corporate criminal liability for the accusation made by them? The question by the Yash Agrawal.
So there is already been a case filed against Chinese government. Yes, but we'll have to see what is the outcome, but it is very difficult. I think if you ask my personal view, it's very difficult to sort of claim against the Chinese, because the claim has to be proved, and the burden of proof will lie on the person who is claiming it, not on the Chinese authority. Now, before COVID, there were other SARS and other things were there, and then all issues has to be seen in a constructive manner. And I don't think telling Chinese and accusing Chinese is going to help. The only thing is that each country should focus on their strength. Like our country should focus on agricultural based product, and how demand supply should increase. and other countries have their own pluses and minuses, but this sort of claims may not hold good in the ICJ, International Court of Justice.
Yes, and most important question out coming over here, that if it is a question of international law, where is the sanction? Who is going to punish the Chinese?
Yeah.
A case has been filed in the state of California or some other state of the United States. Just now you talked about that case, Mr. Abir. But the thing is out here, the thing here, that the quantum of punishment, the quantum of compensation is going to be 20 trillion. It is an astronomical figure. It is 7 times more than what you have the Indian GDP. Who is going to extract that much amount of money from the government of China? Government of China is already very aggressive. Very aggressive. I totally agree with our guest panelist, Mr. Abir Lalde, that it is not the time of the blame game. Rather, we should mind our business. Better to focus on our international relationship, and this is going to serve best in this current situation.
And also one more thing that can be added, if there is any country who is feeling that yes, I have been particularly targeted or jeopardized, then sever your ties with that particular country. You have got other destinations to go and invest in those destinations. If you want
exactly.
to if you want to hurt them where they can be hurt the most. That is to take away the business from them.
That's why we have come up with FDI.
Yeah, exactly.
FDI
That's
policy.
right. That's right.
This is happening. The government of Japan, the Japanese government, Japan has very huge amount of investment in China, and they started investing in China just immediately after the World War II, and it was done hugely once the Chinese economy is open. But now they are coming with the incentives to their own multinational to go out of China. I think this best serve a country like China.
So we don't have much time, so we will conclude it here. So I call Gajal ma'am for vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Rituraj.
Really a healthy discussion. Hello, Gajal ma'am.
First of all, yeah, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank our Honorable VC ma'am for giving us this platform. And of course, Rituraj has been a very good collaborator, and with Burnished Law Journal, thank you so much. I would like to thank Advocate Abir Lalde as well. Sir, thank you so much being with us, and we people have taken much time than the stipulated one, and this discussion was really very fruitful. Students are live watching it on YouTube, and though the glitches were there with the connectivity and the network, but still it is a win-win thing for us. I would like to thank Dr. Ajit Kaushal, Mr. Nizam Khan, Mr. Victor Nayak, and above them, Dr. Azim Pathan, my co-associate dean, and the students, the participants, for whom we have arranged. And Rituraj, I would like to invite you for further platforms like this. And Abir Day, if he can give his time. And thank you so much, sir, especially for getting us to in such a short notice. Within 2 days, you have just taken up your time. You're tied up with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you to the School of Law, Galgotia University, for giving me this opportunity to conduct, and thanks to Abir Lalde, sir, for joining us, spending your time with us. Thank you so much.
No, it was a very good experience with all of you. I think the best way is to sharing the knowledge and learning from each other. So today also I have learned quite a few things, I think, from all of you. And the idea of doing this way, the session, was that I was thinking of presenting something, but then I thought it would be very boring for the whole people, because what happens, we have attention deficit nowadays. So much things are going, after 5-10 minutes people will have attention deficit. So rather than that, if we have a sort of panel discussion And going forward also, if we can discuss on certain topic like force major, we can also have a panel discussion. We can have on AI also, any topic. I think this is a good format to share as well as, you know, gain knowledge. And I think people would be also more active in this way.
So you have sown the seeds. We'll come up with your lectures further on these only.
Yeah, we'll conduct further more.
Yeah.
So
I would
thanks.
love to, along with my associate, I would love to give, you know, lectures on banking finance.
Sure, sir.
And
We'll
as well
call
as
him
on
next time.
fintech
For
and
sure.
other things.
We look
Thank you.
forward. Thank you so much,
Thank you so much.
We will surely look forward to it, sir.
Abir. Thank you so
sir.
much.
Thank you, Advocate
wonderful
Abir,
session.
for your words
Thank
of
you so
wisdom.
much to all panelists as well, Mr. Victor, Mr. Nizam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ghazal, as well, for organizing
Thank you,
and
sir.
connecting. Thank you, Rituraj,
My pleasure, sir.
and coordinating this, and look forward for having, you know, many
Sure.
fruitful food for thought in coming time for our students and of course for all faculty members.
Sir himself has given a very good idea. I'll be
Thank you.
catching over this again, Abir sir, later on with the, the subject things you have talked about, the topic. We'll really look forward for it. So your schedule must be really tight, but sometime span we will definitely. Thank you so much.
Definitely.
Come on. Thank you so much.
Take care, and
Thanks
all
to
of
everyone.
you stay safe.
Thank
Same
you.
to you,
Take
sir.
care,
You too.
everyone.
Same
Thank
to
you.
Same to you.
Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
Wish you
Yeah.
the same.
Bye bye.
Thank you.